What is happening, YouTube? Cowboy here, and today I'm going to give you an introduction to Dota 2 and the various mechanics you should know if you were just starting out with playing Dota 2. So I've been playing a lot more of this on stream lately, and then along with that, I've had a lot of viewers coming in to join. And, they see the game, they have never played a MOBA before, they have no idea how it works, they find out it's free, and they're like, yeah, let's download this. And they download and they get in, and they're absolutely terrible, and they have a bad time. And nobody wants that. You play games because you want to have fun. So the purpose of this video is going to be to tell you everything you should really know when you're first jumping into Dota 2, and hopefully after watching this you guys will have a lot more fun playing and you'll be a lot more comfortable playing as well. So after getting the game, the first thing I would suggest is under the Play tab. You'll see right here under Learn we have Training, and I would highly suggest doing the training even if you're coming from another MOBA. This is going to go into very basic things such as movement, using items, using your abilities, how to get your gold off of enemies, like last hitting, stuff like that. And in general, it's highly recommended that you do the training before you try jumping in against even bots, let alone considering fighting other players. So moving on from there, the first thing I'm going to focus on talking about are the characters and some starter picks. Now, to somebody just starting Dota, it can be certainly overwhelming when you see all the different characters. Currently, there are 108 characters available in Dota 2, and they're divided into three main categories of Strength, Agility, and Intelligence. So just to give you a basic idea, Strength is going to increase your health, regardless of what you are. And just to clarify here, if you're playing a Strength hero, Strength will increase your health, and it will also increase your damage. If you're playing as Agility, Agility is going to increase your damage. If you're playing as Int is going to increase your damage. But aside from your class's attribute increasing your damage, the main benefit of Strength is that it will also increase health, Agility will increase attack speed, and Intelligence will increase your mana pool. So with that in mind, obviously the main attribute of Strength heroes, regardless of if they're a carry or a an initiator, whatever the case is, Strength heroes in general are going to have more health than Agility or Intelligence characters. Their strength gain is higher by default, so at the start of the game and with proper items even moving later into the game, they're usually going to be a bit beefier. So because of this, you'll commonly see Strength characters in roles like Initiation, Team Fight, sometimes Carry, and like I said, these are your guys that they're going to be beefier, they're going to last a little bit longer, and they're going to be up front, usually fighting in the fray. Agility characters, on the other hand, because Agility increases their attack speed, you're usually going to see them transition into more of a carry role. Now, they are a lot squishier, and Agility characters need to, in general, get a lot of farm to be able to be very effective in the late game. But they become very powerful carries, and it's not just carries. We have Vengeful Spirit, who is mainly a support, but it's still an Agility character. The main thing to remember here is that with Agility, as you level up, you're going to be able to hit faster and faster, and with the right items to complement your damage, you're going to be able to hit really hard, and you're going to be the threat on the battlefield. So if you're just starting out, I would suggest kind of shying away from Agility-based carries, or I'd actually suggest shying away from carries in general, just because towards the end of the game, it is the carry's job to effectively, kill off the members of the enemy team, and it's critical that your carry gets farm in Dota. So for someone that's just starting out, it's not really a role that you should have the responsibility of. So I would suggest shying away from Agility, at least when you're very first starting out. Intelligence, as I mentioned, is going to increase your mana pool. So Intelligence heroes are going to have a lot more mana, and along with that, they're usually going to have more abilities. And what I mean by this is every character has 4 abilities, but in general, Intelligence heroes will have almost always 3 different active abilities, and very rarely will they have passives. You'll usually see passives a lot on Agility carries. Faceless Void has 2 different passives. PA has a passive and then 2 very low-cost skills. Viper has 2 passives. So along with being Intelligence and having that higher mana pool, you're going to have a lot more active skills. And these are going to include things like stuns, disables, roots, slows, silences, whatever the case is. And in general, because of this, Intelligence heroes usually fit into the role of support. So they're going to be supporting their team through these abilities to ensure the carries are able to secure kills. I feel that Intelligence is a very good place to start while you're playing Dota because they're not very item dependent. They don't need a lot of gold to be effective, like a Warlock with nearly no items can be very, very deadly if it's played correctly, whereas, you know, a Viper with no items is usually going to get shredded. So if you're just starting out playing, I would kind of suggest sticking Intelligence. That being said, just to give you an idea of a couple heroes that may be good to start with, I would suggest going for either Dragon Knight or Wraith King if you're looking for a strength character. These are both very beefy characters. They have stuns. They can take a good bit of punishment before they're going to go down. For agility, if you really want to try your hand at carry, I would suggest going for either Juggernaut or Viper. Two very basic carries that overall have a decent amount of survivability and are relatively simple to use. And if you're going into Intelligence, I would suggest, let's see, Crystal Maiden, Windrunner, Warlock, and let's go with Lich. All four of them are very simple intelligence characters that aren't going to require a lot of items to be effective. So, jumping on over into the actual game, we're going to go into a bot match because I'm going to be pausing a lot. And real quick before we do that, if you guys are ever in streaming, you're trying to join me, that would be right here, private games. So you would click find a lobby, and then right here under friend lobbies, if you have me added on Steam, you will see the game. That being said, hopping over into a bot match, we're going to get up the character UI and the selection. And first going into the selection, if you've never even seen the characters before, this is when you're first going to be presented with this massive slew of characters. So a couple ways to make this easier. You know, you can go through with the scroll wheel if you want. You can hit grid view over here, and when you click that, it shows it how we were just looking at, where they're split up into strength, agility, and intelligence. Additionally, if there's a particular hero you know you want, up here you can type in the name in the search bar. So we could go right here and type Dragon, and we see Dragon Knight comes up. So once you lock in your character, you do have to hit this button again, and that will enter the battle as the character you selected. So now that we're in the game, I'm going to take a little bit of time to go over all the different UI mechanics. So right here we have our character portrait. You can see our skills down here. This is where your items go. This is the shop. Anytime you click this button, it'll bring up the shop. Looking at our map, we can see this whole area right here is considered Dire territory. This area right here is considered Radiant territory. There are 3 towers in each lane. We can see the Tier 3 tower here, Tier 2, and Tier 1. And your towers are kind of like your defensive positions. You know, as the game progresses on, the goal is to knock down the enemy's towers, eventually busting your way into the base and destroying this guy right here, the Ancient. Now, additionally, creeps are going to spawn, and right now we're in a minute 12, so creeps aren't going to be spawning for a little bit, but creeps will spawn every minute, and they'll spawn right here behind the towers, and then they'll take a path like this, and a clash will happen kind of right here where I'm drawing this X. Just to go into some other stuff on the UI real fast, up here we can see the settings option. So anytime you click that, it brings you back to the menu. If you ever get disconnected, you would do it right here. You know, you load up Dota, click play, and right here will be a button that says reconnect. When you click that, you can also hit this cog right here, and that'll bring up all of your hotkeys, options, video and audio, so you could set up your mic if you want to talk in game. Additionally, we have a couple other little elements we're going to take note of. Right here, we have share content, and when you're in a game with other players, you can put on any announcers or mega kill announcers or HUD skins that players have. Additionally, right here, we have shared unit control, where you can share your hero or individual units you control with other people on your team. May be good to use if you are just starting. You know, you want to share control with your buddy who's trying to mentor you. Right here we have the combat log if you ever want to pull up and see exactly what happened, you know, what abilities are doing damage and whatnot. Right here we have the scoreboard, which can also be popped out by pressing the tilde key. That's the little key on your keyboard that's right next to 1 and below escape. You know, it looks like a little squiggle. You can just press that and it'll bring it up. And lastly, we have this little book. Now this book brings up your guide, and it's very important in my opinion that you use the book. Now the reason for this is by default you're going to be on suggested items. And you know, when we click shop, we can see a couple of items here that are suggested for the character and how we want to progress. However, these are usually just basic items that are suggested by Valve, and you know, while they're alright, they're not going to be optimized for what you're trying to play, and as you can see, there's just a slew here under situational items, so you really have no idea what you should be getting. If we click this little arrow right here to expand out the selection, you can see there are a number of recommended builds. You can also sort them down by English to pull up like just English builds or just German builds or whatever the case is if you want. So in general, I would suggest going for a guide that sounds appropriate. So we can see here there's a build for middle Dragon Knight versus a build for lane Dragon Knight. So depending on if we are going into the lane or if we're going into the middle, we'll pick the build that's appropriate for that. And the nice thing about picking a build is that after picking the build, you can see it's going to give you a good build. At least will give you a little description about the hero. You can see the starting items have changed considerably. It tells us what to start with, what we want for the early game, what our core items should be, situational items along with descriptions regarding what they're used for, whether or not you want them, extension items. And another excellent thing is the guide shows us, it highlights what skills we should be getting in what order. And this is going to help you a lot with learning how to play your character. Up here we of course have the timer, heroes, along with the total kills on each side. And the last thing I can really think of is your glyph, which is down here. If you're just starting, don't worry about your glyph. This is a 5-minute cooldown, and it makes all the structures in your base invulnerable for 5 seconds. In general, just let the more experienced player decide when it's time to use the glyph. So, hopping into the game, we're going to grab our first skill. We're going to grab these starter items. Now, while we're in the shop, another thing we can do, which I think is very helpful, is if you hold shift and you left click, it'll get an item in the quick buy section. So this is a soul ring, and you can see down here the soul ring requires a ring of regen, sage's mask, and then a recipe. So by hitting, like I said, shift, left click, it'll put it right down here in your quick buy area. And now anytime we are within range of the shop, we can press F5 to quickly buy that item. You can also press F5 away from the shop, and it'll just end up in your stash. So in terms of shop mechanics, if we were to buy something right now, it would end up in our stash. If we walk, you can see how the shop button down here is going from brown to gold. Basically, anytime it is gold, you are within range, and the item will go directly onto your hero. Additionally, if you are in lane and you need to get items, that's what the courier is for. When you buy items on the courier, you can press D or click this button, and that'll have him pick up your stuff, and then you would press F, and the courier will run over to you and give you the items that you picked up.
The battle begins.
So, real quick, before the battle actually gets kicked off here, we're going to go into some basic mechanics real quick of the map. So like I said, this whole area is considered dire territory. This is considered radiant territory. And you have your mid lane right here. This is considered the top lane, this whole area. And this is considered the bottom lane. Now, in general, if you're on dire, your top lane is considered your safe lane. If you're on radiant, your bottom lane is considered your safe lane. The other one is called the off lane. Now the reason for this is over on the dire side, we can see that their first tower is right here next to the corner. You know, it's very close, whereas the radiance is all the way back here. So what we mean by safe lane is that the tower in general is going to be closer to the fighting, so that if the enemies do try to attack you, you can usually retreat back to the tower a lot easier. Now the off lane, or it's sometimes referred to as the hard lane, is because the tower is farther back. So if the battle is happening right here, where I'm kind of circling the mouse right now, you know, people from the dire could sneak around and hit them from the back from the forest. Additionally, they got a much farther way to go to get back to their tower if they are in danger. So for someone that's just starting, I would try to avoid the off lane and suggest playing support in the safe lane like this Vengeful Spirit is up here. I don't know why they have 2 supports up here. That's terrible, but we're going to ignore that. So aside from that, if you're going down, we have runes, which you'll see they'll spawn at 2-minute intervals. The first one will spawn right now, and then from here on out, every 2 minutes, there'll be a rune right here, and there'll be another rune right here. And there's always one bounty rune, and then there's always one utility rune. So this could be regeneration, haste, double damage. There's a variety of effects, and you'll see them as you play. Real quick, just to give you an idea of shops on the map, we of course have the shop up here. And I mentioned you can hit F5 or just click shop to open it, and right click any item to buy it at any time. If you're not near the shop, it'll go into your stash, and you can always, you'll see your stash right down here when we have something in it. So you'll see that a little bit later, and you can just go there and manually pick it up, or you can use the courier to bring it to you. Additionally, there are side shops on each of the side lanes. We have this guy right up here, and then down in this lane we have the side shop right here. And there's a lot of starting items in these side shops as well. So we can see we can get TPs over here, magic sticks, both our Sage Mask and our Ring of Regen, which we need. No recipes though, so keep that in mind. But a lot of basic items. And then the last thing are the secret shops, which we have one with this guy right here, and we have another secret shop right here. And secret shops are usually going to have some more high-end items. So we can see the top-end components for agility, strength, and intelligence are here. We have Demon's Edge and Sacred Relic, which are used to make really high-end DPS weapons. Hyperstone, which gives you a drastic increase to attack speed. This is used for things like Assault Cuirass or Mjolnir. All of our different, our boosters, Point Booster, Vitality Booster, Energy Booster, Voidstone, Ring of Health, Orb of Venom. And some of this stuff you can find in both places, like the Energy Booster and the Ring of Health. Those are also located in the side shop because they are relatively early items that you're going to need. Energy Booster is for Arcane Boots, which is fairly basic. Ring of Health goes for both Perseverance, Vanguard, and Hood of Defiance, which are relatively early items people will try and build towards. So understandably, those are also over here in the side shop. Now, as we're running out, one thing I would suggest doing is obviously you can move your mouse to use the camera. If you're just starting to play the game, what I would suggest doing is double-clicking your character portrait. And what this will do is, since we double-clicked on Dragon Knight, as we begin to move, you can see the camera is automatically moving with me. So that will make things a lot easier if you're just learning how to play. And real quick, we're going to show you a technique called blocking. So since we're going into the off lane, basically we don't want the fight to be all the way down here because that's bad for us. So what we're going to do is, as we're running out, right now, you can see how I'm basically getting right in front of the creeps to slow them down a little bit. And ultimately what this is going to help do is it's going to make it so the fight is closer to my tower and I can escape if need be. So looking at our map, we can see that if they were to try and come from the jungle, I can see that happening. I'm right there. My tower is a lot closer. And while they're not really at a huge threat for a gank because someone would have to loop all the way through their jungle to get them, overall it makes me in a much safer position as someone who's over in the off lane. Now that the battle actually started, we're going to talk about last hitting and the different phases of Dota. So, in general, last hitting is something that you need to accomplish if you're the carry or the initiator. The support will vary. Actually, the support should just never last hit. Just don't last hit if you're the support. So this is Lion. Lion shouldn't be last hitting. As you can see right there, he denied, which is really good. And what I mean by denying is when your friendly creeps begin to lose health after they are below 50%, you can hit them. And if you kill them, you'll get a little green exclamation point. You'll see it right here in a second on this guy. And when we got that little exclamation point right there, what that's doing is reducing the experience that the enemy heroes are getting for the deny. Since my guy's playing a carry, it's my job to try and get last hits, because as you can see, you only get gold for the very last hit that actually kills a creep. And this also applies to heroes. You're going to get gold if you assist in killing a hero, but in general, the person who gets that final blow is who's going to get the majority of the gold. So, in general, only go up and hit a creep to get the very last hit on it. And a couple reasons for this. One, because that last hit is what's going to get you the gold. And then on top of that, you don't want to push the lane. So right now we can see that the creeps are kind of all the way back at the tower. We don't really want to go all the way down there because that puts us in a bit of a bad position. So we're kind of waiting back a little bit. We'll let the tower shoot down the creeps and let them come back to us. And in short, what you want to do is you want to avoid auto-attacking. Even if you are going to go up, you don't want to ever auto-attack creeps. Because if you're auto-attacking, what you're going to do is you're going to push the lane up to them, and it's going to take you out of a good position and put you into a bad position. So normally this would be we'd be in a much safer position, but the bots aren't very aggressive, so they're not really hitting the creeps at all. So the creeps are kind of pushing us back. In terms of making that easier for you, over in your settings here, one thing I would highly suggest doing is under the options, you see auto attack right here. I would suggest turning that off because, like I said, you don't want to auto attack, and with that off, we can click right here and stand right next to this guy, and then right as he is about to die, we can just right click and get the gold for it. You can jiggle around if you want. In general, I wouldn't suggest standing still because it's going to make certain abilities a lot easier to land. You can see our guide keeps telling us what skills we want to get. Like I said, right now we're just really hanging out. We're playing passive, we're waiting, and we're getting those last hits as the enemy creeps are about to die. Now this is how you're going to play if you're playing like a carry or an initiator role, something that needs gold. If you're playing as a support, you've already seen Lion do a lot of different, he's been denying creeps. You can also see right now he's harassing. Every time Juggernaut tries to come up to get a hit, Lion is attacking him, trying to put a little bit of damage into him to get him to go away, and that's exactly what a support should be doing. At the same time, you'll also notice that he's staying relatively far back with this. You know, he's not chasing in too far, he's not diving it. He's just staying nice and far back and getting in damage as he can, but he's not putting himself at risk. And this is important because you'll notice in general, we're both positioned behind our own creep. We're making sure that there's at least one creep between us and the enemy creeps, you know, and that's good, because if we're like up here fighting, you know, you can see the second I got close, she got me with an ability. And the last thing you want to do is to get caught out of position and end up in a bad situation where you could end up dying. So you can see I picked up the ring at the side shop. If I want to buy the recipe, we can see it's now at the stash. And then if I switch to the courier, which by default is F2, I can hit D and the courier picks that up. So I'm going to also click to buy that by right-clicking. That's in the courier. And now by hitting F, we can see the courier is going to walk on down and give me those items. So right now, we're going to take a moment to talk about phases. Now, there are three main phases in a Dota game. You have the laning phase, you kind of have the ganking and roaming phase, and then you have the pushing and team fighting phase. Now, right now, we're in what's known as the laning phase. And the way the laning phase works is it's, you know, basically the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game. And because your characters are lower level, in general, you know, you're going to stay in lane, you're going to try and kill creeps, get some gold, get some experience. And at this point in the game, that's basically one of the most important things, if not the most important. Now, as the game progresses and you begin to level up, you're going to end up meeting with your team, and you're going to start trying to kill enemy heroes. So right around like the 10-15 minute mark, you'll see heroes jumping around the map, and they'll start to, you know, basically group up to push down towers or to try and gank a specific hero, you know, come in lane and try to kill off that one guy that's getting a lot of farm. It's like right now, we're going to try and get a kill, and we got a nice kill on the Dragon Knight. Now real quick, just because we just pulled that off, we're going to take a moment to talk about team play. So right there, Lion went in with the stun. He got the stun on the Juggernaut. Right after that, I ran up. I also did my stun. So we had 2 stuns in a row, and while he was stunned, we're both just attacking. We got our kill, and then we backed out, you know, because we might have been able to get Crystal Maiden, but we didn't want to get greedy right there. We got a kill on the Juggernaut, so he's going to get sent back to base. That makes life a lot easier for us. We got some gold, and that's what matters. But at the same time, you can see Lion only lost a little bit of health, and neither of us were really put at risk when we did that. So right there, did a Fire Breath, put a little bit more harassment. You can see the Juggernaut ran back a little bit. You know, he doesn't want to get up front and risk taking that damage. And right now, we're in a really good position because the computer is being very passive. You know, he doesn't want to take the chance of you know, dying again to us, and that Fire Breath already knocked down a big chunk of his health. So right now, we're pretty much in command of this lane, and that's good. So, in general, some things that you're going to want to consider in addition to playing is vision. You know, right now, we don't have vision of the jungle at all. I mean, obviously, we can see that Viper's over here, but wards are going to be a big thing, especially if you're playing support. We have Observer wards, which will give you just general sight in a large area. We have Sentry wards, which is a smaller area, but it provides true sight, allowing you to see other wards in addition to stealth heroes. And some common places for wards are on these little eye symbols. We can see one right here. If I'm in the off lane, I personally like to put a ward right here because you want to make sure you have vision of the room with the ward, but that's also going to let me know if any enemy heroes are coming in this way to try and kill me. And, you know, right now, we don't know. Like, we don't, you know. We can see that the hero that's over here in the middle is missing. We know our Viper's right there. We got 2 enemy heroes up there. We only see one, but we know Crystal Maiden is right down here. So there is an enemy hero that's missing, and we don't know where they're at. And looking at the colors, we can see teal, yellow, blue. We know Crystal Maiden's orange, but she's down here. So Drow Ranger is missing. And it's very important to keep your eye on the map. Now, in general, you can always hit Y and go like that and say missing and let people know, or you can type it out or say it on your mic. But, you know, sometimes people might not call it out. So just keep an eye on your map. You know, it's really easy to just glance down at your mini-map and, you know, knowing that I see 3 X's, I know that the Drow Ranger is missing somewhere. I can see her now. But, you know, if I know someone's missing, I'm going to back up and I'm going to get into a safer position. So, I also have 1,000 gold right now, so I'm going to start working up my next item, which is boots. So I'm just going to pick that up real fast, run into the shop, and actually I'm going to start getting power treads. So once again, shift and click on those. I'm not going to need a wand, so I'm going to sell this stuff. right click, left click to sell. We're going to get back into the laning phase here. And once you hit level 6, you start to get your level 6 forms. That's pretty much where the laning phase is going to die down and things are going to transition. Because at level 6, people are going to start having ultimate abilities, and you're going to begin to push in lanes, looking to head down and attack enemy heroes and finish them off and really gain your lead. Now, this is basically how it's going to work if you're laning. If you're the middle, whoever's in middle should usually roam at one point or another. And what I mean by this is because they're in middle and they're by themselves, they're getting more experience. So right now, even though I'm not level 6, we can see that if we go over to Viper, he is already level 7 because he's getting all that XP, whereas I'm sitting here sharing it with Lion. So in general, your mid will usually rotate a lot through the game. If he has an opportunity, he'll come down here and he'll kill the enemies at bottom with us and help to kill them. He'll go up top and do the same thing. And right now we're going to back up. So right there, that got a little bit risky because we got close to the tower. In general, if you're not playing a strength hero or someone that has a guaranteed escape, I would suggest not diving in that deep towards towers, simply because tower blasts will hurt. Just to show you, 1, 2 blasts, 3 blasts, and that took off a pretty good chunk of health. Now, Dragon Knight is a fairly resilient character because he has Dragon's Blood, which gives him passive health regeneration and armor, so we're able to tank those pretty well, but the Lion wouldn't quite be as lucky. He would probably be down to about half of his health right now, and, he doesn't have the regen that I have, so he's going to be hurting. So, now we got our Dragon Form, our ultimate ability. We can begin to get a little more aggressive here, and if we see the opportunity, we can go in and try to get a kill. So we're going to kill off these creeps, wait, and then we're going to push up. Now, aside from that, see, we've gone through character guides. Obviously, we're following the guide on progression. That's what I would suggest doing when you're first starting out. And as we're approaching the 10-minute mark in the game, we're going to start getting into where team play becomes a lot more important. So even though I said never to auto-attack creeps, right now you can see I am, because I'm trying to push this lane up. I want to kill them fast, and I want to get my guys up to that tower, because we're going to try and do some damage into the tower and hopefully kill the enemy heroes as well. This Crystal Maiden is playing shy, so what we're going to do here, I'm going to sneak around back now. We'll see if Lion does this with me. I don't think Lion will, but we can see Juggernaut's right here. So we're going to stun him, get up our dragon mode. We're going to start chasing him, get that damage in. And he's going to be able to escape us, unfortunately, which sucks. But we have dragon mode up. We might as well push while it's up. We have range damage, we have more damage, so we're going to get back in lane. And even though the Juggernaut escaped us, we're going to start killing these guys off a lot faster. And we're going to try and get some damage into the tower. Now, right now, we can only see the Crystal Maiden down there. So we can toss out Flame Breath to help nuke these creeps down faster. Our creeps just showed up, but we are close to the tower, so they're taking damage. But we're able to get these guys down fast. And you can see right here, I see my cooldown. Still have a couple seconds left on Dragon Breath, so the creeps are attacking. Now, if the tower starts shooting you, a lot of people will just run away. One nice trick you can do, if I hit A and attack the creep like that, the tower will usually, I guess it's not working like that, it's only going to work with melee. And oh no, we're in a bad situation, and we're going to die. So, right there, got greedy, trying to finish up the tower. The Crystal Maiden came in. She hit a Frostbite, which froze me in place. The Drow Ranger hit me, and she has freezing arrows, so that's going to slow me down. And they're able to get an easy pick on me. So right now, she might actually chase down and get a kill on this line, but she's going to withdraw. So it's actually kind of good that I died, because it gave you an example of, when you've overstayed your welcome right there. So anytime you die, I would always suggest buying a town portal. They're 100 gold. All you do is, click it with left click, and then left click again towards a structure. You can see it'll teleport us right down here. And this is very important because trying to run all the way down towards a tower is going to take a lot longer. And the last thing you want to do is waste time. Basically getting all the way back to the tower already, it's going to ensure we're back over here getting gold, getting experience, and we're back in the fight. Whereas having to run all the way down, that's going to waste about a minute, and that's a minute that we could have been gaining XP and getting stronger. And, that's something you never want. So right now I'm going to ping her, see if my Lion will run up, and he won't get off the stun, in fact. But we managed to do a nice little combo there. I got the stun, Lion did his ultimate, I did a Dragon's Breath. We got a really easy kill there on the Juggernaut. So, I died, but I took another one out in exchange, so it all works out. Now she is trying to get away. We're going to hit her with another stun. Fire Breath, securing a double kill. You can see how, you know, I did the stun on the first guy, we got the kill. Lion had the stun for the second one, we got the kill. And overall, that was some excellent teamwork to come together to secure those kills. And then that's a very, very important thing to remember, is at the end of the day, Dota is a team game. You know, regardless of who you're playing or how farmed up you get, you could be, you know, one of the most powerful characters in the game with some of the best items. And if you're not playing with your team and you're not, you know, trying to work with your team and trying to play together, you're ultimately going to lose. And, you know, this is all because of teamwork will surpass everything. So to give you an example, you know, right now I'm doing good, but let's say, you know, it's going to be, I don't know, all 5 of them are going to attack me. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to take on 5 people by myself, but I'm a little bit beefy, so they start chasing after me. I decide to start running back. Then the Warlock comes in. The Warlock has an ultimate that drops a big golem down. So he drops the giant golem down. The golem hurts everybody. Basically, from that golem hitting everybody, you know, they're all stunned. At this point, the Vengeful can do a follow-up stun. I can do a follow-up stun. Lion can do a follow-up stun. And we're able to get a lot of damage into the enemy because of this. So we have one that's still jumping in here, as we can see from the that little R that was up. So we're going to stay on the Drow, try and get some damage into her. And instead, we're going to turn around and run. Lion went down, so now it's going to be up to us to try and escape. And we might not be able to. Drow with those frost arrows can slow. But we have some distance now, and it looks like we have a good chance of getting away. So she's going to keep chasing. She does get the silence off. But we're going to keep running. You know, we make it back to the tower. And this is a good time when a salve will come in. So we're going to pop our salve, get all of our health back. And we're not going to run away. You know, we're going to stay here, but we're going to stay safe. You know, we don't want to get to where she can jump on us. And we got to remember that right now we are alone. So we have to be cautious. You know, Lion's not here to support us. So this is something I probably should have gone over at the start. But just real quick to take a look into some basic items. 2 of the big things starting off are going to be tangos and healing salves. And at first glance, your salve, 400 health restored. Your tango, you get a couple uses, and they're 115. And you might be like, all right, well, you know, they're healing. What's the big difference here? Tangos, anytime you use a tango, you eat a tree with it, and it's going to be a slow healing over time. That stays up even while you're fighting. Whereas the salve, on the other hand, it's just going to be one big chunk of 400. But what's important is if you're attacked while the salve is on, that healing cuts out right there. And you don't want that to happen, because if that healing just cuts out, you know, then it's worthless. And the same thing also applies to clarity potions. They work similar to salves, but they restore mana. If you get hit, that effect is gone. Now, another thing that's important with this is, in general, these are only going to be used at the start. At this point, you know, we're at 14 minutes. I am not buying any more tangos, any more salves. I'm counting on my dragon's blood to regenerate. I have some regeneration on my soul ring. And in general, as you progress into the game, you know, if you get really low, you're going to head all the way back to the fountain, which is right back here. And, you know, anytime you're in the fountain, it'll regenerate your health and mana, and then just buy a town portal, jump back to the tower you were at. But as long as you play carefully, which, you know, as you saw in the laning phase, we were staying behind our creeps. We were making it so that the enemy creeps weren't just standing there beating on us. And, you know, as long as you do that early on, you shouldn't blow through a ton of healing items. And in general, the passive health regeneration you're going to get from certain items, like you can see, even though it's only 3 health per second, that's going to go along with the passive regen I have on strength, and then on top of that with dragon blood to give me a pretty good amount of passive regeneration. And even on something like an intellect hero, you know, there are plenty of items that will regen you. Soul Ring is very common on intellect based heroes. Earnest Shadows, another one that has a healing effect on it. You'll see Tranquil Boots, which give you HP regeneration over time. So basically my point is, as the game gets later, you know, you shouldn't be wasting gold on things like tangos or salves or clarity potions. You should be working towards items, and as you can see, that's what we've been doing as we've been following our guide. You know, right now we're working up the BKB. I have enough for the first part of that, and I'm going to pick that up in just a second here. But, you know, once we got these, we were done. It was starting items, and that was it. So at this point, honestly, I think I've pretty much covered everything you guys should really know to get into Dota. You know, we went over all the different UI elements, we went over some basic characters, we showed you how to last hit, we showed you how to deny, we showed you how to work with your teammates, and like I said, at the end of the day, that is going to be the most important thing. You know, Dota is a team game. If you're playing with friends, you're going to have a lot more fun than if you're playing with people that you don't know. So, you know, keep that in mind. In general, the community can be, I guess, quite vile at times. So you're going to have a lot more fun playing with friends. You know, people aren't going to be like, oh my god, you know, you freaking suck. I can't believe you died. Stop feeding, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, and part of that, it's just some people are like that. You're going to run into highly negative people. And, you know, to help avoid that, a big thing is going to just be practicing and getting better. So before we wrap up, just to give you guys a little bit of advice, because there are so many heroes in Dota, anytime you're trying out a new hero, please, please, please practice in a bot game first with that hero. You know, the last thing you want to do is pick somebody you've never played, jump into a game with players, and then be like, I've never played this guy, let's see how this goes. Because I guarantee you're going to die a lot, you're going to be upset, your team's going to hate you, and then no one's happy. So, you know, in general, when you start playing, you're going to start with easy bots, you're going to move to medium bots, you're going to move up to hard bots, unfair bots. Anytime you're trying out a new guy, try him against bots first, get an idea for what the different abilities on that hero do, how fast they attack, how tanky they are, what type of items they should buy, and then after you feel that, you know, you don't need to be the master of the hero, but once you feel that you have an idea on how that hero works and you're comfortable in playing them, then take the hero against people, because, you know, bots are going to be a lot more, you know, just set. It's AI. You know, you can expect certain things from bots, and, you know, the whole, we're at 15 minutes, and the only time Drow came into the bottom lane to gank me was when I was, like, seconds away from destroying their tower. Whereas against players, when we were just sitting down here farming it up, and a player Drow Ranger would have swung down, grabbed a double damage, come down, and probably killed us each 2 times by now. So play against bots, get an idea on basic mechanics, you know, keep an eye on vision. Obviously, there's a ward up here. This kind of gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. So, you know, if the Drow Ranger had decided to go like this, the people on top could have seen that little X right there and gotten back. We don't have one down here because the computer's lazy and didn't buy one. But vision is paramount to Dota. Keep that in mind. Team play is paramount to Dota. Keep that in mind. And if there's one last thing I leave you with, it's just, you know, practice and have fun. You know, it's like climbing Mount Everest, in all honesty. The learning curve is absurd with this game, but once you get it down and you get a mastery on a couple of heroes, it is a ton of fun to play. I know I have like 1,500 hours in the game, and I still don't get bored of playing it, and I think that says something, considering that I basically play games for a living. So either way, I really hope you guys enjoyed watching, and hopefully this guide helps you in giving you an idea of all the different mechanics in Dota 2. It really is a wonderful game, and I hope you guys enjoyed playing it, and hopefully we'll see you on stream and you guys will join in and play with us. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.